major billion-dollar merger deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery.
Netflix has inked a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery.
Netflix is announcing a definitive agreement to buy Warner Brothers in a multi-billion-dollar deal.
Got some breaking news coming out of the entertainment world. Netflix making it official, announcing it is buying Warner Brothers.
Netflix didn't just announce an acquisition, it signaled a shift. Because while the headlines focused on content, our investigation found something far more unusual happening behind the scenes. Private jets landing at the same airports, sealed meetings in places with no corporate footprint, and money that appeared before negotiations officially began. In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover where this deal really started and why it wasn't inside Netflix, the real locations where negotiations took place, the outside capital quietly shaping the outcome, and why this acquisition may change who controls global media. This wasn't a routine purchase, it was a coordinated move, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why Netflix may not have been the most powerful player in the room. Everyone, from industry analysts to general public, assumes that Netflix pursued and bought this asset primarily for its vast content catalog and streaming synergies. But when you dig into the travel records, the precise legal timing of filings, and the details of those closed-door meetings, a very different picture emerges. One where the deal was shaped as much in the air, during high-altitude flights, and in offshore havens, as it was in traditional boardrooms back in California. The leadership at Netflix, including co-CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters, typically operate out of the company's headquarters in Los Gatos, California, and various Hollywood offices scattered near the iconic Sunset Boulevard did not kick off discussions in their usual transparent corporate settings. Instead, the earliest detectable movements and gatherings cluster around a series of highly discreet locations. The luxurious and secluded resorts of Aspen, Colorado, the rugged, privacy-focused retreats in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and even private coastal estates nestled near Cap d'Antibes on the French Riviera. These are not places selected for mere convenience or proximity to studios. They are deliberately chosen for their unparalleled privacy, far removed from prying eyes and media scrutiny, ideal for high-stakes talks in a deal facing regulatory hurdles and rival hostile bids. Adding to the intrigue, legal teams associated with prestigious firms that maintain offices in major financial hubs like New York, London, and Geneva reportedly insisted on ironclad NDAs before any substantive conversation could even begin. This extraordinary level of secrecy is far more common in the world of sovereign finance and high-stakes international deals than it is in the relatively open entertainment sector. Because what Netflix ultimately secured through this transaction wasn't simply another asset to bolster its library, it secured significant leverage in an escalating multi-front struggle between traditional legacy studios, long-standing family-controlled media empires, and vast capital pools that are directly linked to sovereign wealth funds around the globe. And buried deep within one seemingly routine disclosure filing lies a crucial clue that reveals exactly how early outside money began entering the picture, setting the stage for everything that followed. Any thorough investigation like this one naturally starts with tracing physical movement. In this case, executives and their key advisors, individuals who rarely publicize or share their directions, suddenly began to converge in a remarkably tight pattern. Within the same narrow 10-day window, multiple arrivals were logged at private airports including Van Nuys in California, Teterboro in New Jersey, and Le Bourget just outside Paris. The aircraft tail numbers involved don't trace back to Netflix's corporate fleet. Instead, they lead to obscure shell aviation entities registered in jurisdictions known for opacity, such as Delaware, the Cayman Islands, and the Isle of Man. This pattern wasn't the result of coincidence. It was careful choreography designed to facilitate discussions away from any official records. Then comes the first major contradiction that demands explanation. Netflix's own detailed financial disclosures, which were meticulously reviewed by top analysts at institutions like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, appeared to struggle when attempting to justify the eye-watering acquisition price based on traditional fundamentals alone, such as projected subscriber growth or content valuation metrics. So the central question sharpens dramatically. If Netflix's internal teams couldn't fully rationalize the deal on their own terms, who exactly was providing the external rationale and support to make it happen, especially against Gulf funds offering higher cash in rival bids? Digging deeper reveals multiple interlocking layers of LLCs and holding companies, some explicitly linked to the Abu Dhabi global market, others routed through sophisticated Luxembourg holding structures that appear immediately adjacent to the core transaction. Importantly, these entities weren't acting as direct buyers or sellers. They were positioned as influencers, quietly steering aspects of the deal from the periphery. And when you patiently trace those opaque structures backward, they lead directly into the realm of sovereign-adjacent capital, precisely the same class of ultra-large-scale money that has been actively reshaping media ownership patterns worldwide in recent years. Buried inside a foreign regulatory disclosure, one that was filed entirely outside the jurisdiction of the United States, a single line item jumps out as particularly telling, a reference to a temporarily assigned capital position. This is specialized language that is frequently employed by sovereign wealth vehicles when they operate through layered intermediaries to maintain deniability and flexibility. The timing here is the ultimate tell. That substantial capital position shifted into place a mere 48 hours before Netflix officially entered into exclusive negotiations with Warner Bros. Discovery, prevailing over higher hostile proposals. Sources who are intimately familiar with these kinds of complex structures frequently point to operational patterns historically associated with major funds such as the Qatar Investment Authority, Mubadala Investment Company, and Singapore's GIC. Not necessarily indicating direct participation in Netflix's deal, but serving as established reference models for how this type of subtle influence typically operates, especially as Gulf funds actively backed Paramount's rival efforts. We must note that this connection remains informed speculation at this stage, but it closely follows a well-documented and known playbook in global finance. In this playbook, entertainment companies are increasingly viewed not just as businesses but as strategic assets. Streaming platforms evolve into critical distribution infrastructure, and control over cultural influence becomes a powerful form of soft power leverage on the global stage. Additionally, detailed jet logs consistently place key advisory figures, individuals with professional backgrounds at elite firms like McKinsey, Blackstone, and even former consultancies adjacent to the IMF, in the exact same remote locations, often arriving or departing within mere hours of one another. Ultimately, this deal wasn't primarily about acquiring more movies or TV shows. It was about strategic positioning, preparing for a near future where dominant platforms have the ability to shape public narratives at unprecedented scale, with Netflix promising to honor theatrical commitments amid industry fears. This is precisely the kind of intricate financial power mapping and hidden influence tracking that we specialize in here on Ghost Ledgers. If this depth of detail and behind-the-scenes analysis matters to you and helps you see the world differently, that's exactly why this channel exists, to bring these stories to light. But perhaps the most important and far-reaching implication of all this still lies just ahead, waiting to be unpacked. With Netflix now operating in much closer proximity to sovereign-scale capital, whether directly tied or indirectly influenced through global patterns, the entire nature of the so-called streaming wars undergoes a dramatic character change, especially post this Warner integration. They cease to be purely about competing content libraries or subscriber numbers, and they begin to revolve around carefully managed influence corridors that span continents and governments. If this same underlying capital logic extends to touch other major players like Paramount, Netflix itself, and various legacy studios headquartered in places like Burbank, Culver City, or London's Soho district, then what we perceive as fierce competition may actually morph into subtle coordination across a consolidated landscape. In such an environment, the entertainment we consume isn't primarily optimized for viewer satisfaction or creative excellence. It's increasingly optimized for strategic alignment with broader geopolitical and financial objectives as tech giants absorb Hollywood's legacy. If this detailed investigation has successfully reframed the way you view Netflix, the broader streaming economy, and the forces shaping modern media, then subscribing to Ghost Ledgers is the best way to ensure you don't miss whatever revelations come next in this ongoing story. Because right now, a series of documents currently under intensive review point unmistakably to a third major move already in motion. Another significant acquisition, another key platform, another carefully selected jurisdiction, quite possibly in the Asia-Pacific region or somewhere in Northern Europe. We've identified the likely regions involved, we've pinpointed recurring advisors. But the identity of the final buyer and the true underlying real objective remains deliberately obscured, for now.